Okay. All right. All right. So I'm recording now, everybody. So Azure is the fundamentals of Azure is the introduction to cloud computing in the Microsoft environment. So when we talk about cloud computing, what do you think? What comes to mind? So cloud computing is relieving you as a customer or as a user the cost of maintaining your own data center. Okay, the cost of maintaining your own infrastructure. So when you start operating in the cloud, then infrastructure cost is transferred to cloud providers. So in the case of Microsoft, Microsoft has a lot of data centers. The same thing for all other cloud service providers. So let's take a look at what we are going to be doing. So if you are considering taking a fundamental cloud training or course in Microsoft, is in 900 will be your best choice. Okay, so it's going to introduce you to the cloud concepts. You also get to be introduced to the Azure architecture and services, then a little bit of introduction into governance, getting like knowing. Please mute yourself as you're joining. So let's look at introduction to cloud computing. What is cloud computing? So we are building applications. It gives us the latitude to be able to accomplish anything on a wider range. Okay, it gives us rapid scalability. Operating in the cloud provides low latency of transactions. When we are talking about virtual machines, imagine building physical servers. If you need to build a physical server, see, physical server versus cloud. Okay, let me see if I can get an image for a physical server. Okay, so if you have to build a physical server, you have to provide all these components: the CPU, the memory, the network interface card, the disk storage. Okay, but in the cloud, you are not going to be interfacing with this. You're not going to have a physical contact with the CPU, the memory, the disk. They are all resident on a rack in a data center located somewhere, maybe somewhere close to you, maybe a data center close to you. So imagine the cost of maintaining this physical servers. You want to first think about the number of virtual machines, physical servers are going to buy. So if you go to any of these outlets and you want to purchase 1 terabyte of tower, okay, maybe $1,000, maybe $800, as opposed to building the same server in the cloud. You are not going to be worried about the location, the security. You are not concerned about network access, because you're just coming into Azure and just come in here and you're just going to create a server. When I say server, I mean virtual machines. So I'm going to be using that interchangeably. I'm going to build a Windows. This is a server. Okay, Windows 11. Let's build a Windows 11. So this is a Windows 11. Okay. And then what's the size? Right now I can select the $70 8 gigabytes RAM memory with the name. Tech support. Okay, let's provide a. Now I need to save this. I'm going to copy this and paste in a notepad. Okay, so for your Windows machine, for you to be able to connect to your Windows machine remotely, you need a specific port to be opened. And that port is port 3389. Okay, so you'll be coming across this when you're interacting with Microsoft servers, Windows machines. If you want to remotely connect to a Windows machine, you will need to make the port 3389, the RDP port, okay, the remote desktop protocol. You have to make it available. So I'm going to make this available. If you're going to install an application on this server, well, in this case, this is just Windows 11 operating system. So if you want to make this virtual machine available publicly, okay, you want to be able to access it over the browser, then you have to open up the port 80. So the port 80 is the port that allows you to interact with the internet over an unsecured network. Okay, that's why it's HTTP. Then, if you want to interact with the internet over a secured network, you're going to go ahead and use the port 443. Okay. So if you want to, so there's this popular saying that if you want to make any transaction over the internet, what is the first thing you look out for? If you want to know that a website is legit, what's the first thing you look out for? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. You look out for that padlock or anything similar to that padlock. So that is how you verify that a website is secure. Same thing for this. Let's go to YouTube. You can see. So we are accessing all these websites over an HTTPS protocol. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna just open up HTTPS and over 3 because I'm trying to set up a Windows 10. I have to confirm that I'm eligible to create this device. Okay. I think I gave this a name now. Tech support. Okay. So when you want to create a resource in Microsoft, in Azure, you need to create a resource group. Okay. So by default, you can leave this space and allow Microsoft to create a resource group for you. But in a production environment, okay, in an enterprise environment, when I say production, I mean real life. So this YouTube page is a production environment right now. So this is YouTube's live environment. Anybody can come here, okay? Anybody can come on this platform. This is production. So YouTube, Google will have a testing environment with the same feature. So whenever they want to roll out anything, whenever they want to update anything, let me see if I can find the version of this YouTube. New features about. Let me see if we can find the version. Okay, if you are checking this on your phone, you'll be able to see the version of YouTube that is available right now. So if you so YouTube will have a testing environment with the same feature. So before they go live, before they go to production, this is production now. Before they come here where everybody can access this service, they will have tested. Maybe they want to change the background. You know, white is the most conspicuous background on YouTube. So maybe they want to change this tomorrow and say, we want to change this white background to red. That means they have to deal with the developers, the UI, UX team, and all other folks that will be needed to accomplish that task. So once everybody submits their task, they're not just going to roll out to production. So they will have a testing environment and they will test, make sure that there are no bugs. They might test for another, maybe 1 month before you get an alert on your phone that, okay, there's a new update. Go ahead and download this update. Okay, so I'm creating this virtual machine now. I want to select my operating system disk. So in Azure, you can either go for hard disk drive, just like your desktop, right? Hard disk, solid state drive, or premium solid state drive. The premium is the high end. So I'm just going to go with the standard because this is just for training purposes. Do I want to use a key? Just use Microsoft Managed Key. Network. Okay, so where is this virtual network going to be connected to? Where is this virtual machine going to be connected to? Which network? So I need to set up a virtual network. Okay, so it's creating a new virtual network for me now, using the same name I use for the name of the device of the computer. And then there is the subnet, there's the public IP. So the public IP will make this resource available publicly. Okay, so I can use the public IP to access the service over the browser, over the internet. Especially now that I'm exposing it to the public over port 443. Okay, we're not going to look at load balancer now. So these are some additional configurations when you are setting up a virtual machine. Do you want the user to be logging into the virtual machine using Active Directory credentials? You know, if this is the office now, if you want to access this VM, you might be required to provide your work credentials, the email, your work email that has your work domain name and the password. So that means that everybody in your organization is registered on the Active Directory. So everybody that is registered on the company's Active Directory, as long as they have access to this server, they'll be able to sign in. So I'm saying, okay, sign in with the Active Directory credentials, but no, not this time. Just gonna leave that. Do I want to enable auto shutdown? I'm going to enable auto shutdown. And please, whenever you create a virtual machine, make sure you enable auto shutdown, because you don't want to wake up tomorrow and see that your credit card has incurred $200, $100. So if you are ever going to be creating virtual machines, make sure you enable auto shutdown. Even if you don't enable auto shutdown, you can always come back to enable that, so that even if you forget, so in my own case now, it's going to shut down at a given time. Can push this for maybe 8 p.m. So it's going to shut down by itself, even if I forget to come back. Monitoring. Every service in Azure has its monitoring component. So monitoring is just to help us monitor the performance, the availability of the service. In this case, virtual machine. So if I configure the monitoring settings, I'll be able to analyze the boot diagnostics. I'll be able to analyze performance data on this virtual machine. Okay, we are going to go deeper into all of this. I'm just introducing you to the basic concepts. So if you compare this to the office, maybe you've ever had to configure a server from the ground up. You had to buy the tower. Okay, when I say tower, this is it. Going to shopping. Okay, so this is a tower. Oh, $2,000. Okay, so this is a tower. Okay, so you have to buy the tower. You have to buy so look at, you have to buy, maybe you need a fan. Sometimes people prefer to buy all those components and then configure themselves. So imagine the time to order the components, the time to build the server, and then the cost of buying all those components and building the server, and then the cost of power. So in a private data center, you have more than this. Let's see a typical example of a private data center. Data center. Okay, so look at a private data center. There are servers. So this is a private data center. This glass is a form of security, so that the person upstairs will see whatever this guy is doing downstairs. So the security investment that goes into maintaining a private data center, that capital expenditure can be transferred over the operations. So CAPEX will move to OPEX. Capital expenditure will transfer over to operating expenditure when you now have your data center in the cloud. Advanced. So maybe you have some commands, or you have some tasks you want this device to perform at the initial setup. Perhaps you want to install Terraform on the server, or you want to install an antivirus, okay, a anti-malware. You can provide the PowerShell script. Since we are dealing with the Windows server now, you can paste the PowerShell script here, or maybe you want to install an IIS service. So you can paste the PowerShell script here, and once we create the server, and you spin up the server, the script is going to run automatically. So you don't have to go in to run those configurations again. So that by the time you boot up the virtual machine, you'll see all the applications you provided. You ask the custom data to do for you, right? So it's just a script, lines of script that you want the virtual machine to perform once it starts up. So that's just by the way. All right, tagging. So tagging your resources is very important. It's good for financial accuracy, for fiscal responsibility. So sometimes you might be called upon in the office and said, we want to have a cost on all the virtual machines on a given subscription. Remember, I said you should set up a pay-as-you-go subscription. That's just a type of subscription. There are other types of subscription. So in an organization, you will be having an enterprise subscription, and maybe the finance team, they want to have an estimate of the cost of managing your 400 virtual machines, your 300 databases. So if you have a tag name for your servers, you'll be able to aggregate those resources according to a specific tag name. So in my own case now, I'm going to give this a tag name testing. Okay, and let's reveal and create this virtual machine. It takes a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes for the virtual machine to be created. So while this is going on, let's go back into our notes. So I'm going to play this video.
What is cloud computing? Just like when you shop for your own computer, cloud computing lets you choose the power and features you need to run your software. The difference is, with cloud computing, the PC is in a cloud provider's data center instead of physically with you. This lets you pay for only the services you use. Plus, someone else gets to manage the upkeep of the computer. Each cloud provider will have their own selection of services to choose from, but the basic services provided by all cloud providers are compute power and storage. Compute power is how much processing your computer can do. For example, when buying a home computer, you may choose a computer with 8 gigabytes of RAM and the latest processor to run the software you need today. But as the load on the computer grows, you find that it slows down. Computing, you can add and remove compute power as you need it. This saves on costs, since you only pay for the resources you use. Storage is the volume of data you can store on your computer. A traditional computer has limited hard drive space. Over time, you may have to run out and buy another hard drive to store more data. With cloud computing, you can request more storage as you need it. Cloud providers manage the upkeep of the computer, so you don't have to. They will make sure that there are backups, that the operating system is up to date, as well as making sure that everything is up and running 24 hours a day. So as your business grows and your computing needs change, you can quickly bring on new computing resources in a cost-effective way.
Okay, so that's an introduction. All right, so when next you hear about cloud computing, you have an understanding. You can explain cloud computing in terms of cost benefits, in terms of infrastructure benefits, in terms of scalability, high availability, low latency. Okay. So in the world of cloud computing, there's what we call the shared responsibility model. And what we're just saying is that you as a customer, you have some responsibilities on your resources, on your services, on your workloads. And also your cloud service has its own they also have their own responsibilities. So it gets to a point where you're going to share those responsibilities. So when we are dealing with infrastructure as a service, as a matter of fact, let me do a whiteboard at this point. Okay. So, right. So excuse me. Okay. Okay. What's going on today? Okay. So infrastructure as a service. And then there is platform. And then there is so this is IaaS, this is PaaS, this is SaaS, infrastructure as a service. So this is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. The virtual machine falls under the infrastructure as a service. And why is that so? Like I said, you're building the server from ground up. Even though you're not doing it physically, you are doing it in the cloud. Okay, so you are building the server in the cloud, and you are dealing with the operating system. You are dealing with the storage, the disk storage. You are dealing with the availability sets, especially when we start looking at virtual machine skill sets. Okay, so it's an infrastructure on its own. But if you go ahead and look at platform as a service, in this case, these are services that have their own, of course, they run on virtual machines, they run on servers, but you don't actually interact with those servers. You just come in and turn on the service. So an example of a platform as a service is AKS, Kubernetes service. Okay. Another example is what now? Storage. Clear this out. Another example is storage, your storage account. That is also a platform as a service. We have a lot of offerings. Databases, they fall under platform as a service. Container instances, app services, web applications, they fall under platform as a service. And then there is a software as a service. What comes to mind? What is an example of software as a service? Anybody?
Your Microsoft Office 365, Google Email, Google Documents, the Google Docs, things like that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So thank you. So software as a service. In this case, you are not even concerned as to the How to figure this. Okay, so for the software as a service, you're not even dealing with the virtual machine, with the server on which the service is running. You're not dealing with the platform on which the service is running. It's just a software. Come in, start using it. Office 365. Outlook, Office 365 comprises of the email, the bookings, Teams, what else? OneDrive, SharePoint. All those are softwares that are configured into Office 365. If you are familiar with Google, then there is a G Suite where you have your Gmail, your YouTube, what else? Shared was Google Spreadsheets, Google Drive. All those are software as a service. You just bring in your resource, your data, and start using that service. So you are not creating anything. It's provisioned for you. So let's go back to our book. So for the shared responsibility model, you are responsible as a customer. So look at your responsibility. You have to be, okay, this is shared. So as a customer, as a user, you are 100% responsible for the information and data. You are bringing your data to Microsoft, to Azure. So you are responsible for the security of your data, for the integrity of your data. The devices you onboard into Active Directory, your mobile devices, your computers, your servers that are integrated into the cloud service, you are responsible for maintaining them. You are responsible for making sure that those devices are well protected. They're not exposed to malicious activities. Their patching are up to date. Their updates are up to date. Okay, so you are responsible for those. Your Active Directory, you are responsible. So this is where accounts and identities comes in. You are responsible for the maintenance and the security of your Active Directory. Okay, so if anybody asks you, tell me about the shared responsibility model, is just break it down. When we're talking about shared responsibility model, that means that you as a user, as a consumer, or as a customer, you have some responsibilities when it comes to cloud computing. And the cloud service provider, this is the same across cloud platforms. So even if you're talking in an AWS environment or GCP environment or Oracle environment or Alibaba environment, it's still the same thing. So you have your responsibilities, and basically your responsibilities are that inform your data, protect your data, okay? For the cloud service provider, so the cloud service provider is solely responsible, everything physical, the physical host. Remember all these resources are going to be created within a data center. So data centers have racks, server racks. So these are, let me see. Okay, so these are racks. These are server racks. Remember, maybe if you're in your office, you have a data room, and then you have this layer of black boxes tied to a ladder or a rack. So that's just not so complex server rack environment. But in the data center, you're going to have racks, just like refrigerators in a shopping center. Okay, so all these are server racks, and you can see the number of servers here. You can see 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is blue. You may not see it clearly. Let me look for another one. Okay. So this is a private data center. It's caged. Your data is very important. That is why customers will go the extra mile. Imagine, I'm sure the location of this data center is highly secured, but they still don't want to take chances. They go ahead and cage the servers. So it tells you the importance of the application of the data they are maintaining or they are protecting. Okay, so these are server racks. Okay, so this is a server rack. Let's make this bigger. These are racks, you can see, and they are well labeled. You can see they are labeled. This is a private data center. So maybe this guy is running an update, or maybe he's checking the performance of the servers. So he has plugged his device, and then he has connected to the system, and is trying to troubleshoot or run some scans or run some updates or run some patches, whatever he's doing, okay, or making some configurations. So if they were to be operating in the cloud, they won't need to come to any data center. That responsibility will be transferred to the cloud service provider, in this case, Azure. And then, so for the shared responsibility model, when we are dealing with infrastructure as a service, that is where responsibility is totally resting on the cloud service provider. Okay, so for infrastructure as a service, the cloud service provider, in this case, Microsoft, is responsible for the security of the data center. Okay, the network access to the data center, the racks that host the servers are going to be sitting on a rack. So they maintain those racks, the heating system, the cooling system. You don't even need heat because the servers are generating heat already. So the cooling system has to be on point. The network access has to be on point. What else? Security has to be on point. So imagine how much of dollars is going into maintaining this. So imagine how much this guy is going to be spending. Imagine how much these guys are going to be spending. So imagine, just estimate one of these servers, maybe $2,000. At least you can see from the, at least let's go to the shopping site. You can see average server, 28,000, crazy. $2,000, 128,000. So maybe in their own case, something, okay, this is a data center anyway. So imagine how much they're going to spend to purchase each of these servers. Okay. So that is where you transfer those responsibilities. And then there's the shared responsibility. Okay. Even in infrastructure as a service, there's not much, okay, for shared responsibility. So, and on the platform as a service, the applications, you jointly manage your applications, network access, the infrastructure, the identity setup. Okay, you jointly manage that. So that is why under platform as a service, the shared responsibility model is highly pronounced. And under software as a service, for Office 365, for Jira, Trello, Confluence, you need to provide your username and password. So when you come across identity, Basically, it's saying that before you can access this software as a service, your email, your Google account, your YouTube account, you need to provide a username and password. So, and that is jointly managed by you, the user, and the provider. So this is a breakdown. You always be responsible for all of this. Let me snip this now. I'm just going to cut this and paste in the chat. Okay. Come here, paste it here. So, cloud models. There's a private cloud, there's a public cloud, there's a hybrid cloud. Okay. So the private cloud is so cloud is not new. So don't see cloud as a new thing. Cloud is not new. They are not building anything in the sky. Nobody is building anything in the sky. Cloud is not new. All these services, all these organizations, they already have private data centers. So they are private clouds. This is a private cloud. This is a private cloud. Okay. The other one I showed, okay, this is a private cloud. Why is it private? It's not, nobody is sharing it. So if this is a YouTube data center, Facebook, they have their data center. So there's a private cloud. Nobody else is allowed to do anything on that data center. Only Facebook users, Facebook applications are running on those data centers. YouTube, okay? They are running on their own private data centers. Even government, they have their private data centers. Organizations, banks, they have private data centers, okay? So that's considered as a private cloud environment. So as time went on, all the big players, they thought that instead of people building up their private cloud environment, okay, why don't we have a common place? Why don't we combine funds and create the cloud as a service, whereby there is a common data center and everybody can do whatever they want to do in that common data center? The likes of Jeff Bezos, the likes of Bill Gates, the likes of, this is my friend in Google. I can't remember his name now. So they came up with a solution. Even Oracle, they came up with a solution and said, okay, let's have a common ground where the cloud environment will be publicly accessible. So it's not only going to be dedicated to a banking service or to a construction service or to a real estate organization. Everybody can come in, build your application, deploy, continue to enjoy yourself. So this is where public cloud started from. Okay, so it's maintained by third-party cloud provider. So we can also have hybrid cloud. So the combination of private, okay, the private and the public. So you can have your private data center and synchronize your private data center or extend your private data center to a typical cloud service provider. AWS, Azure, Google, Alibaba, any of those guys. So you can have a hybrid setup. You still want to maintain your data center, and you still want to continue to build services, maintain resources in a hybrid environment. So you always come across hybrid. So it can be for databases, it can be for Active Directory. You can have a hybrid Active Directory setup whereby users on premises will still be able to access cloud services. You need some tools to make that possible. So there's the hybrid cloud. So the hybrid cloud is a computing environment that uses both public and private clouds, an interconnected environment. Okay. So we want to look at some comparisons across the solutions, the public cloud, the private cloud, the hybrid cloud. You want to check this out? I'm going to dump this in the chat. Make sure you research this, okay? Don't just collect this and then move away. Then there's a multi-cloud environment. Some organizations, they are multi-cloud. When we say multi-cloud, what are we saying? What do you mean? Sorry. What do you think we mean when we say multi-cloud environment? Any idea? Can anybody jump in? Feel free. Are you typing it in the chat?
Sorry, what was the question again?
A multi-cloud environment, what would that mean? If you want to explain.
It means. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Can I
Sure,
try?
go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, given that you said earlier that a public cloud is provided by a third party, okay, which means provider A has a certain number of services, provider B has a certain number of services, and say provider C and D. You may choose a little bit from A, a little bit from B, something from C, and so on. Now that, and probably still have a little bit of your own private cloud or private data center.
Okay. Thanks for the effort. Yes, Mike, can you add your comment?
Yeah, multi-cloud is an organization using one or more of the major cloud service providers. Like a company can have a primary AWS environment and also utilize Azure or GCP or Alibaba or Oracle.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's just, so when you are having conversations, don't let anybody bamboozle you. Don't let anybody start spilling technical jargons. Oh, we are running a multi-cloud environment. Oh, we need to set up this data center. Oh, let them calm down. Tell them to calm down. When they say multi-cloud, that means they have operations across different cloud service providers. Okay, so maybe their primary cloud service provider is Azure. So for the purpose of resiliency, for the purpose of high availability, for the purpose of security, or maybe for compliance sake, they are now required to have a secondary cloud service provider. So if they have a food delivery app now, maybe Amazon is Uber Eats. So Uber Eats can have its main operations in Azure, and then they will have a backup in AWS. The backup in AWS might be in a cold state. So everything running in Azure is also running in AWS, but it might be cold state. So when I say cold state, that means that it's docile. is not operating. But if anything happens to the applications, to the data center hosting the applications in Azure, they can quickly fail over to AWS. Okay, it's just for security, insurance, just to be sure that, okay, in the case of any eventuality, can we fail over to a cloud like entirely? We are not even talking about failing over to a region now. If the whole service is down, can we fail over to Oracle? Or can we fail over to Alibaba? Okay, depending on their secondary clouds. So some organizations have up to 3 cloud service providers. Sometimes when you are doing interview, you might be asked, okay, what are your cloud service experience? We are looking for somebody that has experience across at least 3 cloud environments: AWS, Azure, Google. And by the time you ask them, do you mean you are running all these platforms? They'll tell you, yes. We have some applications running in Azure, we have some running in AWS, and we have them backed up like this: Azure, AWS, Google, and then they are backed up. Very convoluted scenario. But sometimes they will ask that, okay, do you have a background in, okay, even if it's not as much as is concentrated in an environment, because the idea is once you can excel in a cloud environment, maybe AWS, catching up in another cloud environment will not be so difficult. So like myself, I started in Oracle Cloud. Oracle databases, built Oracle databases in Oracle Cloud. And then I went to AWS. And right now I'm in Azure. The things I'm doing currently are in Azure environment. So the experience I had in Oracle Cloud and AWS have been useful for me in Azure. So if you want to be a consultant in the future, it gives you that leverage that, yeah, we have experience across 3 cloud service providers. That makes you marketable. All right. Let me see. Okay, we've gone 1 hour. Do we have any question? Let's give like 5 minutes for questions right now. Do you have any questions right now? Any question? Favor, do you have a question?
Yes, yes, I did type it, but I guess you didn't say. So is there such a thing like a multi-platform? See how you have like IaaS and PaaS running at the same time, like see how you have the infrastructure, and then you have like software at the same time, like in an enterprise.
Yes, sure.
Okay. All right.
Your virtual machine.
Okay. Okay.
So you have that's an infrastructure as a service. And then on your virtual machine, you installed Office 365. Okay. Your Windows Server, you installed Jira on the Windows Server.
So the data center,
Okay.
so what would that look like? Do you have a shared space for those data centers to have those things there? Like, see how you have do you have those cloud services in the same, do they share data space? Just see how you were saying that maybe Microsoft and maybe Google can have like a joint data location or something like that. That doesn't happen.
No. Don't confuse it. So Microsoft will have its own data center.
Okay.
They don't deal with AWS. AWS will have its own data center. It's not dealing with GCP. So when these guys come together is when let me go back into, let's come back to my whiteboard. Okay. I'm trying to move this away. Okay. So you have AWS. My pen is acting up. I'm sorry. I have to use my mouse. Okay. So you have AWS. And then there's GCP. And then there is what? Azure, AZ. So you, the customer. So what's the name of the customer? Anybody with a company here? Do you have a company? Let's use your company name. So you as a customer, LinkedIn service, linkedin.com is the customer, okay? LinkedIn is primarily hosted on Azure. So LinkedIn is primarily hosted on Azure. Everything you are doing on LinkedIn is in Azure. I'm not saying that is how it is. I'm just giving you an analogy. So along the line, LinkedIn might say, this might be risky in the future if we continue to host our resources in Azure. Why don't we have a backup in AWS? So they can contact AWS and say, we want to replicate our service in AWS, but it will not be running. It will just be in a cold state. So in a cold state means is incubating. So anytime there are issues with the main service provider platform, they can always fail over. Okay? They can always fail over to AWS and business continues while they are working with these guys, Azure, to bring up the data center. So when I say data center, it's not like this customer will travel to the data center. It's not like so. They have an agreement, they have an SLA. So their SLA will determine how service is restored and business continues. Okay. But while they are trying to fix their issues, at least they are not losing out. The customer is not losing out. Customer has moved over to AWS. In some other cases, this same customer might have its platform on GCP. Okay. And this may not even be the case. It might be that in some other cases, this same customer maybe is a real estate firm. Okay. They're into real estate. Okay. And they have their mortgage side of things, right? They have their mortgage application. They have what other things do you, what other transactions are associated with real estate? Mortgage, somebody help me.
Is it loan?
Loan processing, mortgage, loan processing, what else?
Inspection, or I guess.
Maybe inspection, and maybe they'll also deal in the sale of lands, right? So they might have application that handles mortgage. They might host that application in AWS. They have another application that hosts payments, loan management. They can put that on GCP. They might have another application that handles maintenance, that handles contractors. Maybe they are also working with builders, construction engineers, and then they have an application they use to interact with them. They might host that application in Azure. So they don't have their eggs in one basket. They have their services spread out, okay? Just to be on the safe side. This is high end. It's not every organization that have their environment set up like this. But AWS is not sharing data center with GCP. GCP is not sharing anything with Azure. It's only the customer okay, that is interacting with all these guys. Does that answer your question, Favor?
Yes, thanks. It's good.
Right. Thanks for bringing up that question. Okay, I'm going to give room for more questions after, before we finish the class. So let's look at some benefits of operating in the cloud. Okay, I'm going to play this video.
A service level agreement, SLA, is a standard industry term. It's the formal agreement between a service provider and customer that guarantees the customer a stated level of service. The service provider may be a company providing the service, like Microsoft when you use Azure services. But SLAs are also used inside organizations, in an agreement between the IT department and the business users. Let's look at what SLAs mean for Azure. Azure service level agreements are represented as a percentage related to the service or application's availability. This availability is also known as uptime. If the service was always available to use, you'd say it was 100% available, or it had 100% uptime. An SLA also commonly includes details like what is defined as downtime when the service is unavailable, and any credit you may be entitled to if the SLA is not met. In reality, 100% uptime is difficult and expensive because it allows no time for taking the service down for required maintenance or upgrades. It would also require duplicating every single component in case one component failed, and would require those backup components to pick up the service tasks with zero interruption to the customer. For these reasons, SLAs of 99%, 99.9%, and 99.95% are more common. 99.99% is also available in some services in Azure. Is there a big difference in a service that's 99% available versus one that's 99.9% available? Yes. A service with a 99% SLA percentage can be unavailable for up to 1.6 hours per week or 7.2 hours per month and still be 99% available. That time is cumulative, which means it can be added to multiple incidents of the service being unavailable. A service with a 99.9 SLA percentage can be unavailable for only 10 minutes per week, or 43.2 minutes per month. That's clearly a big difference. If the service is critical to your business, minutes versus hours of downtime can make a big difference. But highly available services do come at an extra cost. Each Azure service has its own SLA. Familiarize yourself with them prior to designing any application that runs on Azure to ensure you're optimizing availability against your business needs.
Right. So the SLA, service level agreement, is based on these factors: high availability, scalability, right? Yeah. So so based on the resource, based on the service, Azure has specific SLA agreements for all those services. So if you are a solutions architect, or if you are trying to become a solutions architect, these are some of the things you should get familiar with. So maybe you are dealing with a customer that wants to migrate databases to the cloud. If they have SQL Server databases, they want to migrate to Azure. So some of the questions that you're going to be asking is, okay, what is the SLA for uptime in Azure? What is the recovery time objective? What is the recovery point objective? These are some questions you want to ask when you are having conversations before you go ahead and start building your services or initiating the migration. Okay, so we're going to be looking at scaling in a deep sense when we get to virtual machines, computes. So there's a vertical scaling, there's a horizontal scaling. When we talk about vertical scaling, this is actually when you're dealing with physical servers. Of course, you can also vertically scale servers in the cloud, but it's not cost effective over time. In the cloud, what we do most is horizontal scaling. Because with vertical scaling, you are still dealing with the same server, okay? So you have a host, you have a server. In your server, you're gonna have CPU, okay? You're gonna have storage, disk. What else? You're gonna have what else do we have in the okay, RAM memory. Okay. So vertical scaling, still the same server. So that means you're gonna add more CPU. You're gonna add more disk storage memory. You're gonna increase the RAM memory, but everything is still happening on the same machine. But in the case of horizontal scaling, they're scaling horizontally. So in the case of horizontal scaling, then we'll now start talking about skill sets. You're scaling out. When you're scaling out, we will now have instances of this machine. Okay. So this machine has dedicated CPU, dedicated disk, dedicated RAM. Then we're going to have copies of this machine replicated as skill sets. Okay. So you're going to scale out. Use cases for skill sets. This is the holiday season approaching right now, or even maybe it's a Memorial Day, maybe it's summertime. You have an app that people use to carpool, or you have an app that people use to order food. Okay, just imagine one of these food delivery apps out there, and your application is running on a virtual machine. So if your application is running on a virtual machine and you are using vertical scaling, what happens on the eve of Christmas when everybody is enjoying fireworks, when they are grilling in their backyard, depending on the weather, okay, or on the eve of Super Bowl. So what happens? Somebody calls you 2 a.m. What is wrong with your website? I'm trying to make payment for the past 2 hours. It's so slow because you have run out of disk storage. You have run out of compute storage. But if you have skill sets in place, in this case, you have copies of the server replicated as instances, and you have created the rules to manage sudden increase in traffic. It's going to be automated. You don't have to rush back to the office. You don't have to rush back to the data center to configure anything because you've already forecasted that, okay, within this period of the year, we might have sudden spike, sudden increase in demand for our service. So your solution architects, your developers, your engineers, they have factored that in, and you have provisioned auto-scaling mechanisms to handle that sudden increase. And that means you are scaling out. As you are scaling out, you also want to make provisions for scaling in, scale out, to accommodate sudden traffic. I remember when I was in college, you try to register for your courses because the server can't handle much traffic. So imagine 5,000 students trying to log in at the same time to register their course for the semester. And you hear things like, oh, the server is down. Oh, it's too slow now. Let us wait till midnight. Why are we waiting till midnight? Because we know that most of the users will be offline and the limited resources will be available in the midnight perhaps the server will not be so hot, like we say, right? They said the server is hot, so let's allow it to cool down. We don't even know where the server is. So wait till like 2 a.m. when there's less traffic, where there's less usage on that server, and then we successfully register our courses. But if they have skill sets in place, there will be no issue for sudden increase. Remember when there was this craze for cryptos, Bitcoin and all those things, that people were trying to buy across all these platforms, and then you hear that, oh, a platform has crashed because there's sudden increase and they couldn't accommodate all the requests. So they have gone offline in daytime. So that means that the resources couldn't handle the sudden request. For instance, maybe your application handles 100,000 site visits every week. Your food delivery app handles 100,000 visits every week. And then one of these days, news goes out that an angel investor just invested $2 million into your business, and it's all over the news. Everybody wants to have a share. They want to buy a share. Okay, when I'm going public, okay, well, how can we invest? Everybody wants to test your application. They want to test your service. Okay, let's even see how this guy works. Let's see how this application works. I'm going to try to order my lunch on this application, and let's see how it works. So if you don't have the scaling policies in place, the service is going to go down, because now everybody is interested in your business. They want to invest in your business. They want to utilize your business. So that's just the basics of vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. We're going to look at this much deeply when we are talking about virtual machines. Okay, the operating in the cloud brings reliability, predictability, lowers cost over time. It can be expensive sometimes, okay, but over time, you see the value. Initially, you might spend so much trying to build your cloud environment. So if you are trying to figure out the cost of operating a service on the cloud, you can utilize any of these tools, the total cost of ownership or the pricing calculator. So the total cost of ownership or pricing calculator will give us an estimate of what we might be expected to spend on a resource. So let's check out the pricing calculator. You're going to be using this a lot. Pricing calculator. Okay, so there's a Microsoft Azure pricing calculator. You want to build a virtual machine. You want to migrate to cloud data center. So virtual machines. Let's look at virtual machines. It's loading. Okay, so this is the view. Now, where is the location of your service? The best practice is to locate your service closest to the end user. So if your end users are in West US or East US or United States, the reasonable thing is to locate your resource within the US. If your customers are going to be located in the United Kingdom, you want to use one of these locations, UK South or UK West. If your customers are going to be in Africa, so there's a Microsoft data center in South Africa. I think that's the closest. So if your customers are in West Africa, you might want to consider South Africa as a location. So let's look at South Africa. So we want to migrate Windows servers, just operating systems, standard pricing tier. So what's the category? Is it GPU? So these are different options of virtual machines. So some virtual machines are built for compute optimization. Some are general purpose. They can do anything, but some are custom built for specific tasks. This GPU is for graphics. So if your application is related to video streaming, you are trying to build a setup of podcast, a streaming platform, video streaming platform, like Netflix, like Amazon Prime, and all those guys. Maybe you are supporting a broadcasting organization, heavy graphics. Or maybe you are building a gaming application that requires heavy graphics. You might be considering a GPU offering. If you are looking for virtual machines that are mainly for storage purposes, okay, optimized for storage, then you can select any of these options. So that is why you have all these categories. So let's just go for the general purpose. What's the instance? So different sizes of instance are available, ranging from the A series to the D series. Not all resources are available across the regions. Okay, so let's select the D series, and we can have an idea of the cost. Okay, so per hour, if I go with this size, D series, D2DS version 4, with 2 core CPUs, 8 GB of RAM, 75 GB of temporary storage. And how was the uptime? Okay, this one virtual machine. Okay, I need 20. I need 20 of this. And it's going to be, let's see, okay. So what's my monthly cost for this server that will be located in South Africa North? So I'm not using the pay-as-you-go subscription. Okay, maybe for pay-as-you-go, what is the estimated cost? So this is my estimated cost for pay-as-you-go. But if you have an agreement with Microsoft and say, okay, we want to pay upfront 1 year, we want to have a 1-year savings plan, you get an approximate 25% discount. This is going to be very useful in an enterprise environment, okay? For a business startup, you might just want to test things as they come. You don't want to just commit your money only to discover that you didn't use as much as you paid for. So you have to do your research before you come up with a payment plan. Okay, you want to use hybrid benefits. So with Azure hybrid benefit, that means that Windows are on premises, right? And these guys are your D series are in Azure. Okay, this is in Azure. OS Windows are on premises. So what we're saying with Azure hybrid benefit is that if you have licenses for your Windows servers, bring them to Microsoft. Okay, bring them to the cloud. You get a discount because you already have some licenses operating on premises. If you have those licenses, then you get some more discount. You can see how the estimated cost changes. Let me share this calculator with you. So just play around with this. Maybe you have a database in mind. The system fonts. Sorry, I didn't see that on time. Is it better? Esther. Esther is a man. Is this better, Esther? Okay. Maybe you are more concerned about, let's look at another resource. Cosmo DB. So let's look, okay, Cosmo DB. Okay, Cosmo DB, auto scale provision throughput, database operations. Do you want a multiple region write operation? Are you going for pay as you go? Okay. So right now it's giving me only the pay as you go option. Okay, they're available. Okay, maybe when you now begin to interact with their account officers, they will give you the options for the discount side of things. But for pay as you go, you get average of $233 a month. Let's see if there's a region, East US, primary rights region. Okay. So it's giving me primary and secondary region because I chose multiple region rights. But let me select single region. Okay. Let us make this UK South. You can see that the price changed. If I bring it to East US, okay, $87. UAE. So the price went up when we moved to UAE. Let's look at India. India, Central India. Okay, not so expensive. Or Brazil. Let's look at Brazil. $131. Canada, 105. So the price is going to vary across locations. Why do you think prices of resources vary across regions, across geographical regions? Any idea? What do you think contributes to the variation in cost? Why don't we have the same price for this same resource? If I say, okay, I want to have this resource in France, this is $142. The same resource in Brazil is $131. The same resource in Southeast Asia is $87. Why? Why is that so?
Can I speak? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I strongly believe the difference in pricing is, the I believe it costs less for Azure as a company to operate these data centers in different regions, right? And managing the resources that they are responsible for, might be cheaper in those places. So might be cheaper in certain regions. Probably, let me use, for instance, the United Kingdom and in America, compared to managing, data centers in faraway regions like Brazil. For instance, energy might be higher for them operating data centers in certain countries than in other countries where they might even have, availability of alternative power sources like solar or stuff like that. So for certain regions of the world where probably they are not as developed as other parts of the world, operating these data centers might, be very high for them. So if you want to, use resources from those availability regions, they would charge you more as compared to regions where it's, for them, it's easier to provide same service.
Yeah.
I don't know if I did come true.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for the effort. Yeah. And you hit some points. You nailed some points. Thank you. And in addition to what David said, basically, the reason why prices vary across locations. Like some of us have mentioned in the chat, cost of maintaining the services, government policies, okay, cost of labor, the jurisdiction, okay, talking in the legal perspective now. So tax policies will determine all this. So all these costs will be included in the service. So if you are coming to build a data center in Nigeria, you have to accommodate cost for power. So you have to be responsible for your own power. You have to be responsible for your own cooling. So imagine the cost. Compare that same to maybe if you are going to Dubai, you will need to spend more money in Dubai because you are going to be cooling your data center. And naturally, the Middle East is hot. So now the cost of cooling the data center will go up, will spiral. If you compare that with the US, where cost of labor is very expensive. So all those things vary across regions, across jurisdictions, and they all contribute to the prices of services across these locations. Thank you. Okay, so this is a breakdown of the, let me share this link. Just go ahead and check out this material. It better explains the PaaS, IaaS, and SaaS. Okay. So basically for testing and development, that's for infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, going into development, analysis, software as a service. Okay. Software as a service, business continuity, business productivity, the CRM, all this fall under. Okay. Let's answer this question. Let's test our knowledge, what we've learned so far. Which cloud service type is most suited to a lift and shift migration from an on-premises data center to cloud? Type your response in the chat. Everybody, type a response in the chat. I have like many people here. Everybody.
Class of this type is most to a lift and shift migration from.
I showed us before coming here, so I expect everybody to pick it. Going. Everybody went for A. Okay. Number two, what type of cloud service type would a finance and expense tracking solution typically be in? Is it a
Advanced tracking solution?
so
Service.
the solution? I'm not going to say more than that, but final answer. Yeah, go ahead, type it in the chat. I want as many responses as possible. We have 22, over 22 in this class. Software as a service. Let's check out. Wow, I like this class. So for lift and shift purposes, so this is a Microsoft solution.
Smooth. Sweet.
They are bringing everything to the cloud environment. Babajide, can you mute? Babajide Duke. Thank you. So lift and shift means nothing is tampered with. As it is on premises, we are moving it to the cloud. Like you are not tweaking anything. The same service as it is running on premises, we are moving it to the service is running on Oracle database. We are moving it to cloud Oracle database. The service is using load balancers. We are moving it to Azure load balancers. The service is using Azure firewall. We are is using firewall on premises. We are taking this to Azure and we are integrating it with Azure firewall. So lift and shift, no tweaking. You are not making any modifications. Okay. For the second question, the finance expense tracking is a solution. So it's a software. Okay. So it's a software solution for finance, for the finance team, for the finance group. Okay. I think I'm going to change this theme to black. My eyes are going blind. Oh. I'm sorry, this is sudden. I have to change it to black background. It was too bright for me. Okay. Yeah. So let's go into Active Directory. So the next 10 minutes thereabouts, I'll just introduce us to Active Directory. Let me see if there's. See. Oh. Okay. Let's go back to, let's see, 104. So I want to introduce us to the identity side of things. And we'll continue from there on Thursday. All right, so when we talk about Active Directory, that is where we start looking at. So the first that comes to mind is username and password. That's an identity. As a user, before you can access your organization resources, before you can connect to the core network, so say core network or organization network, you have to be authenticated to be able to access the company resources. So this Active Directory is an identity access management solution. This is how Microsoft manage identities in Azure. You can build a career if you're an identity manager. Like you can build a career on this. You can be a subject matter expert on identity access management, integrating identity access management solutions. Okay. Okta, SAML, OpenID, CyberArk, all those identity access management services. If you get familiar with them and you can automate their provisioning, like you don't even have to be a DevOps engineer, you don't have to be a solution architect. You can be a principal identity access manager. Like you can build a career on this alone. Is as lucrative because every business needs there's always the identity access management side of things for every business, for every organization. As long as you have users, those users must have passwords. And those users must have access to the organization. So how do you manage them in a large scale? This is where the Active Directory comes in. So for those of us that are familiar with on-premises, so when I say on-premises, I've been saying on-premises for a while now. So on-premises is just saying your physical organization, your physical environment, your office, the headquarters, the regional office. So your building, the office building, where you have your address, your office address, your your on-premises environment. Your physical data center is on-premises, okay? So for those of us that are familiar with the on-premises Windows Active Directory, it uses Kerberos and or NTLM for its authentication. And before we even go further, let's talk about authentication and authorization. So tell me, what do you understand by authentication and authorization?
I strongly believe that authentication is checking if whoever is trying to gain access into a network or into a close user group, right, is if you know the credentials that were created for them, if it matches, you know, if it matches, you know, what is the credentials being provided matches what has been set up, you know,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
then authorization is haven't met certain conditions, you know, of authentication, then access is granted.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the effort. So authentication, when you sign into your banking application, you want to check your account balance. You provide your username, you provide your password, something you have. You have your username, you have your password. Okay. So provide it, you gain access. Nowadays, you can use facial recognition, okay, on your mobile device, on your computers. You can scan your face so that when next you want to sign into your banking application, just put your face and then you get authorized, you get authenticated into that platform. All right. Multi-factor authentication. That is where multi-factor comes in. So all these solutions falls under multi-factor MFA. Multi-factor is just saying that multiple ways of authenticating into a service, into a platform, into an application. Password, one-time PIN, OTP, okay? Authentication apps like your Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, Thunder, is it Thunderbolt or Thunder Cloud or something like that? Biometrics, fingerprint, facial recognition, okay? And then authorization. Now you are inside the resource, okay? So this diagram is very explanatory. So you have confirmed that you are, excuse me. So you have confirmed that you are Biojo and you have provided your password. Now you are on the platform. So on this platform, so consider this platform as a banking application. So you now have to confirm that you are authorized to view banking statements, account balance, maybe your credit score, if your bank application provides that, maybe previous transactions. So that means you have the authorization to access all those things. So authentication is even having access to enter the service. Then authorization is, now that you are in, what are the things you can do? Okay, what are the tasks you can perform? I'm going to explain this better when we go back into the portal. Okay, so we created the virtual machine successfully. Let's look at the Active Directory. Okay, so this is the Azure Active Directory. And no, Active Directory. Why is it giving me this? Azure Active Directory. So this is the Azure Active Directory. You can see my domain name. Okay, this is my primary domain name. Registered here. You can see my license. I'm using the free license. So even for you to be able to manage your Active Directory, it comes with different license offerings, licensing tiers. There's the free, there is the P2 license, there's a P1 license. Okay. Go under licenses. If you go under get free, okay. So there's a Microsoft 365 license. With a Microsoft 365 license, just sufficient for everything Microsoft 365. But if you want to consume services, if you want to manage databases, manage resources in Azure, you now have to graduate to the P licenses, P1 license or P2 license. Okay, just note that. You know that for you to be able to utilize the Azure Active Directory, you need a license. In my own case now, I have a free license. I can't do much with my free license. And this is a tenant. Okay. All these things you have seen here is a tenant. So I can have multiple tenants. This is my account. Okay. DevTest at blextech.com. Blex Technologies, that's my account. And this is the tenant. Okay. I can have multiple tenants within this account. I can have more than one tenant. Okay. All I need is to create another tenant. Is it for business to customer or business to business? Okay. So for business to customer, if it provides highly customizable sign-in and other identity management experiences for your external facing applications. Scale up to hundreds of millions of users. Okay, so you want to do some research. So next class, Thursday, do a research on the difference between business to customer and business to business. Okay, that's your assignment. What is the difference in Azure? So narrow your search to Azure, business to B2B and B2C. So when you have B2B, those are things that are going to be, if you are in the identity access management space, you're going to be hearing a lot of B2B, B2C, B2B, B2C. So is it business to business within the organization or business to customer, external facing users? So I want you to research on that and let's talk about it on Thursday. And okay, Active Directory, go ahead. I need to provide the name of that organization. So what this means is that within this account, I can have multiple applications, maybe internal facing applications. So maybe we have another application for real estate. I'm going to give this Real Tech. Okay, this is the name of the organization, Real Tech. And this is the website, Real Tech.io, and it's located in the US. So I have to verify that I own this domain name. Okay, let's give it a real tech. Already used by another directory, so it's not mine. Okay, real tech 44456. And now I have a default domain name. And let's create this. I have to authenticate myself, prove that I'm not a bot, XKY DXY. So it's going to create a tenant for me. So I can have multiple tenants within an account. That's just what I'm trying to prove. I can create more tenants. Okay. So if I need this service to talk to the public, then I'll have to use the DNS offering to authorize access to the public. You know, I have to prove that I am what I say I am. I own this website. I own this domain name, realtech456 www.realtech456.com. So for the Blex Tech, I've already showed that I own the domain name. So if we go under DNS, you find it for me? Custom domain names. Okay, so this is so when I created this account, I had this, the blackstack.onmicrosoft.com. That's a default domain name. So once you verify your organization domain name, then so it's verified now. Okay, so if I want to check for realtech.com, tech.com. So this is realtech.com add domain name. So I have to provide a TXT record. So let's verify. It failed to verify because I am not the owner of that domain. I can't provide all the needed information. Okay, so if I come back to the custom domain name, it remains unverified until I can show that I registered this domain name, maybe on godaddy.com or namespaces.com or any of these domain name registrars. Okay, so but I was able to verify that I own blackstack.com. So it's verified. So I can use that now to create users. My registered domain, create user. So I can use either Blackstack or on Microsoft. So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use my registered domain name to create a new user. Okay, so we're going to look at that on Thursday. Don't forget my assignment. Find out. We are going to continue from here on Thursday. So we're going to look at how on-premises Active Directory compares to cloud-based Active Directory. I'm going to look at some benefits that comes with operating identities in the cloud. Okay, going to look at some features. So it's going to be interesting. Do you have any questions? Any question? Any question? Observation, question, contribution? Yes, Femi.
All right, so thank you very much for the training and all, and the way you've been able to explain all this stuff. We are actually simplifying everything. So what I want to ask is that, are you going to share the video?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, perfect. Because I'll need to watch it again and try to assimilate some of this stuff.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Well, any other comments? So if you are considering something in the cloud, you can start looking at identity access management. Okay, you can be an Azure Active Directory specialist. See.
So, sorry, I have a question. For those of us that created a virtual machine, are we to deactivate it straight up to avoid charge?
Yeah.
Can you take us through the process of deactivating it, please?
Sure. Let's see. Yeah. So we go.
Sir,
Can you see?
sir, Mr. Leko,
Yes, sir.
can you please share like 2 or 3 career in this area on our chat?
For Active Directory.
Yeah, like Active Directory and other career area that we can look into.
Yeah, this is it. I'm listing it for you. Look at Indeed, Identity Access Management.
I think I've seen that one, but is there any other one that we can check on? Yeah, just share it on our Telegram chat so we be able to.
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
Okay, sir. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, for the virtual machine, you said we should click stop, right, or delete?
Delete. Okay. Azure Active Directory subject matter experts. Let's filter this to the last 7 days.
I even just apply for the IAM one that you just showed now.
This one is hungry.
Man, I applied for it last week, but I've not seen any response from them. I have a little bit of IT audit background, so I'm trying to explore it.
Okay. Yeah, it will work out. You can start from there. This is somewhere anybody can start from. Maybe access specialist, group policy management, Active Directory Forest, ADFS. Okay. All right. I'm not going to hold you longer. Some of us are in Nigeria, and this should be like 3 p.m. Thank you for standing till now, for hanging in there. And I know some of us are in the UK, maybe 2 p.m., 2 a.m. So I'm not going to hold anybody any longer. Let the conversation continue on the Telegram channel. And we'll continue from Active Directory on Thursday, same time Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I think 2 a.m. Nigerian, West African time. Okay? Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
You. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So somehow I could not.
Thank you.
I could not authenticate my Telegram joining the chat. I don't know if there's some special protocol to that.
Your Telegram?
Yeah, the link I used, it said it's not valid, and not so sure why.